We're preparing the live stream right now. I'll tell you when we're up. Gosh, so awkward. Done, redirecting. We're up. Here we go. Gosh, so awkward.
We just got to 60.
Done, redirecting. I'm getting repeat back. Here we go. Gosh, so awkward.
We just got to 60.
Redirecting.
Very exciting.
Repeat back. All right, here we are. I think we're live. I think we're going. Ali, can you hear us?
Yep, can hear you.
Awesome. Jody, can you hear?
I can hear you.
Welcome to the very first At Home with Interesting People, and this episode is with an interesting person. I think very interesting, Jody Weir. So welcome, Jody. Thanks for joining us on At Home with Interesting People.
Thanks for having me. Hello, everybody.
I have known you for a long time, Jody. It's been ages. I don't even know how many years we've known each other, but I started working with you when you were the head of the transformation at AMP. Is that right?
Yes, I think that is right. And you were at PM Partners.
Yeah, that's right. Back in the days when I was at the PM Partners Group. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Jody, who you are, where you come from. Obviously, you've got this amazing, beautiful accent. I want to share a little bit about that and what you're doing now.
Well, my, as you say, amazing, beautiful accent is from the US. So I'm American and Australian. I'm an Australian citizen. So I'm head of agility at the Iconic now. And I've been in Australia, I think 9 years now. My husband's Australian and we moved here. We decided we wanted to raise our kids in Australia and near one of our immediate families. And so we chose Sydney, and that's where his family is from. And before that, I was working in the Silicon Valley for 12 years, working at a tech company called Intuit that makes QuickBooks is probably how people might know about it, but MYOB is way more popular here. So I'm not sure if people know it, but it's very popular in the US. They have, I think, 75 to 85% market share of small business financial services applications in the US. And then I worked for a couple of tech startups. And and then when I came over to Australia, I worked at CBA doing agile transformation work, and then AMP, and most recently at the Iconic.
Yeah, wow. And that, yeah, as I said, AMP is where I got the privilege of meeting you for the first time and working with a wonderful team there. In fact, many of the epicers that we have on board now are actually ex-AMP transformation team members. So we got Peter Cripps and Alex Beryl. So you remember those names. And we're still in contact
of those people. Yes.
Yeah, well, we're a big fan of you too, Jody. So thanks again for joining us. I would love to know a little bit more about you personally today, and I'm sure the audience does as well. And if the audience is listening right now, feel free to ask any questions you might like, and I'll see if we can ask Jody to answer them for you. But while we're getting to know you a little bit more, why don't you show us a little bit around your house? Who is Jody Weir when she's at home?
Okay. So I'm going to switch then to my laptop so I can take you around a bit.
Yeah, great. Let's see if we can do this.
And am I still here?
You're here, but you've given us a great photo of you and your daughter by the looks of it.
Oh yeah, sorry. I'm going to start my video.
Camera. Yeah.
Start video. Why isn't it starting? This never does. This always works before.
Always goes wrong in the middle of a live event.
I think maybe that's what I need to do. Start video.
There we go.
It worked. Okay. Yeah, that was my daughter Talia. That was an Iconics, a kids' day, and they did professional pictures because we have professional photographers. So she wanted to do a unicorn pose, so we did that. All right. You want to see my home setup? This is my home setup. Let's see. See if you can see it. Can you see my desk?
Yeah, so this is the COVID-19 at home
COVID
iconic
cave. This is my
agile
home
cave.
office. So I have on the chair is my electric blanket. That's my pro tip for staying warm in winter. And yeah, let's see what else is around here. I've got my priorities for the day. I've got my markers because I like to sketch and do things like that. And
You've got your own personal Kanban board by the looks of it.
yes, I have a few different then I have a fake Kanban behind me. That's fake. My son put it up. It says things like to do, take a nap, because I thought my background needs to look more agile. So I put that up. But I do have real agile Kanban going on as well. And then that's out the front yard of Empire Bay. And
Nice.
let's see. Okay. So I was my daughter, let's see, I'm walking down the hallway. What were we gonna do first? I think I'm gonna go make a cup of tea. Because are you gonna make a cup of tea with me?
I've got my tea already here.
Okay. Well, all right. So here we are. This is can you see Cinder the cat?
Yep.
She likes to sit wherever the sun is. I lit the fire, so we have a fire going. All right. So I'm gonna go show you my tea drawer because that's my favorite part of the house.
And for those people who have tuned into us, Jody sent me some tea earlier in the week. I'll share a photo later on, and I have to say that this is the last piece of the tea left, the last drink, because which I almost spilt, because everybody in my house loves the tea. So it was going so fast, I had to quickly grab it this morning before it's gone. So thank you for sharing your tea with us, Jody.
Yes, well, I sent you some tea from one of my favorite. Let's see, I just switched to the internet down here. Hopefully that didn't mess things up too much. Yeah, from Casa de Cha. They are a local small business. I just turned my kettle on, so it might be a little bit loud. Is it a bit loud in here?
That's all right.
I'll let that go. Yeah, Casa de Cha is located in Empire Bay. I think I sent you this one.
Yes.
Yeah. And I'm with you. And then let's see. Open up the drawer. So this is my tea drawer. Wow. And I have all sorts of tea in there. See, can you see it?
Yeah. And Jody, someone has mentioned that they thought that only English people and Aussies obviously drink tea. So what's the story there? How'd you get into tea?
Well, that's interesting that they say that, because every time I have an English person over here and I say, come, they're like, I don't need to cheat. I just want English breakfast tea. So I have that for if people want it. How I got into tea was actually, I'm not that into coffee because I don't drink caffeinated coffee. So I will drink decaf. But so, you know, there's such a tea and coffee culture in Australia that when I first got here, I wasn't even drinking caffeinated tea. But then I just started because it was just all too hard. And I got into tea, and it's amazing what's out there. So this Be Well one has got all sorts of goodness in it, and I like the whole tea culture, tea ceremonies. You know, I like making a cup of tea, and I'm not
tea ceremonies. Yeah, interesting.
This is another one of my favorites. Dark chocolate black tea.
Oh,
amazing.
Nice. Yeah.
And then I do like tea too as well. And then I I'm not a tea snob, so I like this, you know, cinnamon and orange. It's all good. Everyone has its place.
And so do you find that when you're in your work environment, do you find that some of your best work is done while you're going and having a tea at the kettle or downstairs in the cafe? What's the story with that? Do you make it part of your work life as well?
Yes, I tend to take a break and go make a cup of tea. I'm a big believer in taking breaks in general, and even just going for a walk, because I find that your best thoughts come from your subconscious. So it's when you're just relaxing and all of a sudden you're like, like just let your brain figure it out. I like to run as well. So a lot of times, like my brain will just serve something up while I'm running. Yeah.
At the Iconic, do they practice like walking meetings or running meetings or anything like that? Tell us about that.
We haven't done any running meetings, but I like that idea. But definitely, we've, the CEO talks about it as well as everyone else. We promote not just Zoom, because Zoom can get tiring. Like walking one-on-ones where you can just be on the phone, and or even just going for walks during the day in between meetings. We have we implemented a lunchtime siesta. So it's a no meeting time. So it's meant so that people can revive a bit and do whatever they want to do and not feel like they have to be on a screen.
Yeah, some of our clients have actually implemented that for entire Fridays as well, because they're already they're already working full on at the moment and back-to-back video conferences. So now they're saying no video conferences on Friday. You can work, but no video conferences. So it's interesting.
Yeah, I think that's a cool idea. I think things like that, it's like experimenting and then seeing how it feels. And I feel like COVID is one big experiment, which I love that part of COVID. I mean, obviously don't like the part that people are getting sick and all that and hardship in the economy. But the fact that we're all forced into these experiments, then we discover new ways of doing things that actually work better for us, I think is awesome.
Awesome.
Oh, look, I have an epic mug.
Glad you got it. So I've just noticed that someone on the chat channel was saying to us that they're using walkie-talkies. What do you think of that idea, using walkie-talkies instead of video conferencing? It's getting old school, right?
I like that. I'm a Breaker 19. I'm a big fan of that. I wonder how that works. Like, I always thought walkie-talkies are for a certain distance. So but
maybe Kathleen can tell us. Kathleen's the one that shared it. Tell us how the walkie-talkies works, and we'll
Kathleen,
walkie-talkie walk
is
and
that
talk
the
at the same time. I get it.
Oh, I see. You call them walkie-talkie.
Yeah,
Oh,
walkie-talkie.
that's cute.
That's a good idea. I love it.
I'm going to steal that. All right, I'm giving you the tour. So this is the backyard, and this is one of my favorite places.
Might have lost a little bit of
area.
Yep.
It's a little veggie patch. Oh, sorry. There's a little veggie patch back there. Am I back?
You're back.
Okay. And so I was going to show you the guinea pigs too.
Yes.
So my daughter Talia has some guinea pigs. They're usually outside during the day, but I requested for them to stay inside today so I could show them to you. Oh, they're making their little guinea pig noises. Hang on, I can do this. They're probably in one of these houses, so to disturb them a bit. There's Fudge. Can you see Fudge?
Yeah.
And then Ollie is probably in here. Yep. Can you see him?
Yeah, I can see him.
There you go. Ollie's new, so he's younger, so he'll get as big as Fudge, but right now, they feel safer when they're in their little houses.
Oh, that's beautiful. How long have you had the guinea pigs for?
Since Christmas.
We
had on another time we can talk about it because it's probably a bigger story, but we did lose one. We still have the memorial up for Henry. Something attacked their cage. But Fudge survived, and we feel like Henry kind of took the brunt of it for Fudge, and we're good.
Awesome. While we're waiting, got a couple of questions that some of the audience have sent in. I wouldn't mind asking you some of these. So, speaking of family, does your agility techniques filter through to home, and if so, how? Chores, etc. What do you think?
Sorry, I was switching to my other Wi-Fi. Can you just repeat the question?
Yeah, so one of the audience members sent through and said, speaking of family, does your agility techniques filter through at home for chores, et cetera, et cetera? Do you use anything at home, or you turn off when you get home?
It does, except for the husband. Husband does not accept agility, which is fair enough, you know.
Not for everybody.
He doesn't like any kind of work speak. He likes to keep it real. But the kids take to it very well. They plan their birthday parties with Kanban boards. So like whenever we're going to do something, they just throw up to do, doing, done, and they start listing all the things they need to do, send out invitations, decorate, all those things. So they've taken to it quite well. I think it's a very natural way to plan.
That's awesome. And what about, have you found a way to help teams take breaks? So since obviously all this is going on, we've been working like ridiculous hours and ridiculously hard over COVID, and now obviously with the economy, taking a dive. What are you doing at the Iconic, or have done in any other organization, for example, to make sure that people are actually looking after themselves?
Yeah. Let's see. Switching cameras, and I don't know if it worked.
Hasn't turned on yet. We still got this beautiful photo of you and your daughter.
Okay, I'm just gonna go back to the other one. Oh boy.
There we go.
All right, I'm just gonna do this. Okay, ways to take breaks.
Yep.
Yeah, really important. And I think people are being pretty creative about that. I think my pro tip on that is you got to keep switching it up. So when we first started, people were doing all sorts of things like virtual coffee, trivia night, but like all those things are really good and really fun. They were doing like if you want to have lunch together on Zoom, but you got to keep mixing it up, in my opinion. So I've seen that happening at the Iconic too, though, which is great. For example, they did a wait, who is that happy painter guy? They did a session with
it's not Ken Doan, is it?
Yeah, people on the call maybe know. So they did a session where everyone got to paint at home. So
Ando.
Yeah. And I think things like that are really good to do. And I think everyone can contribute to ideas and what might we do, but just keeping mixing it up is good.
Awesome.
I think it's the thing that we miss the most, in my opinion. One of the things with COVID is those informal interactions. So anything we can do to try to recreate those, like leaving the first 5 minutes or the last 5 minutes of Zoom meetings as just banter, and a lot of times in the first 5 minutes, people are just kind of all getting connected and settled. So you might as well do that anyway. But at the end, I think it's important too, because normally when you have face-to-face meetings, that would be there. And now if you just end, it's like click, end, and it's like everyone disappears, So so I think that, or even like Slack, I love a bit of Slack banter, I love that. A little bit of emoji and animated GIFs. I'm a big fan of the GIF.
Talking about animated GIFs, I've got a meme I want to share with you, and I get your feedback about it. What does it resonate? What does it say to you? What are you going to walk away with? So give me 1 second and I'll see if I can share that with you. Here we go. 1 sec. Doesn't seem to want to share.
While you're doing that, I gotta go find my cup of tea.
No worries.
So
I've
hopefully,
just installed the latest version of Zoom. Always the way when you really need something to work, it doesn't work, right? So
yep, I've been there.
yeah. So if Ali, by the way, for the audience, Ali is our co-host today, and if anything goes wrong, she can give me a hand. But if there is a way for
No
you to
pressure.
share that meme, that would be
Come
great.
on, Ellie. You knew
All right,
we were going
let's
to
see what
drag
I
you
can
into this.
do. All right, 1 second.
Here we go. Hate putting you under pressure like that, Ali. Sorry.
Ellie, you got some fans out there. Michael's saying, "Hey, Ellie."
All right, I think I've got it here, so I can share my screen. Let's see if it'll work for me. 1 second.
Thank you. This is why we use co-hosts and always have a backup just in case.
That's right.
All
That's
right,
it.
it's not. Is that it? It's not very pretty.
That's
but...
it. Yeah. What do you think of
Okay.
this?
Okay, the daily work from home battle continues. Stay in bed until 8:59. Use this time to make real breakfast. Yeah, I think I see that as a bit of a yin yang symbol, you know. I think there's both. Personally, well, I have kids, and so staying in bed till 8:59 isn't, I don't know. It's not. I could, but there's a lot going on in my house in the morning. Plus, I'm a morning person. But I think if that's like what you feel like doing, yeah, take advantage of the things that you can do because of how we're working right now. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, it's interesting. At Epic, we said to the team that we didn't want to see them any earlier just because they're working from home. You know, typically people are traveling into work and they take that time to, if you're on the bus or whatever, and you'd be doing your emails, getting ready for the day, setting up your tasks, whatever it might be, and then, you know, by the time you hit the ground at 9 o'clock, you're up and running. But what we were saying to our team is we really weren't that interested in seeing them before 9 a.m. Not that we don't love their beautiful faces. Thank you, Ali, talking about that. But also, you know, just use this time as a bit of a gift back to you guys. And it's not a gift from us, a gift from the universe. So I think staying in bed till 8:59 sounds like a great idea. But obviously you could use it to make better breakfast, of course. But yeah, what do you think? Do you think that you find people in the COVID, you know, working from home lockdown sort of space, using it to spend more time at work or spend more time at home?
It's a good question. I've heard instead of working from home, my home has become my work, and that can be a problem, especially I think depending on your situation. Like I'm lucky because I live in Empire Bay. And near the water, plus I have a house, so I have a home office. But you know, people who live closer to the city might have smaller places and they might be working from their dining room table, and that's not, you know, then it's really invading kind of your home space. It's interesting though, I have a different perspective on we don't want to see you before 9, because the other thing that I've seen is especially during COVID, people need to make things work around their lifestyle. So, for example, some of the people that we work with that have young kids, they might want to get up, and between 5 and 7 is like their quiet time, or once the kids are in bed, 7 to 9. And so they actually do want to work then, because it's when they can actually focus. And then they want to take more time out during the day because they need to be with their kids. So whereas before COVID in the Iconic, what I saw is, you know, we had a great culture of, we wouldn't really send emails or expect people to be in a meeting before 9:30, and definitely not after 5. Like if it was after those times or outside of those times, you kind of ask, like, is it okay? Yeah. Now I see people just needing to flex their time more to make it work for them, and I think that's a really good thing. But not if it means they're working 14 hours a day.
Yeah, exactly. You've got to be really careful of that. Look, there's a section of this, at home with that we wanted to ask 3 hard questions, and since we just started talking about it, here's the first of them, right? So Question one, 9 to 5 is dead. So good point, Jody. I totally agree. 9 to 5 is dead. What does that mean to you now? What does 9 to 5 mean to you? What does it, the context?
I
9 to 5?
100% agree with that. And I like the term, the new normal, because I think we had pre-COVID, how everyone worked, whatever that was. Then we had COVID, which we were like, well, early COVID, because we're still in COVID, but crisis. Like we're just trying to figure out, how do we keep businesses going? How do we get people productive and safe? And now we're in like coming out of COVID, or we're just a little bit more comfortable, or we know more about it. And I feel like we're moving into the new normal. And in my professional opinion, we're not going to go back. So it's going to be a mix of, some people will be in the office, some people will be remote, or maybe some companies will choose all remote, which you do see some announcing that already. But I think the difference is, at least what I saw is, oh, look, I have a package, real life. Go get the packages, people. Maybe it's something from the Iconic. This wasn't planned. Okay.
This is what we're finding all the time now
Thank
as well
you.
in the virtual world.
Okay.
You got to embrace the interruptions. It's part of the fun of life.
Right. Let life happen. So what I predict, and I'm not alone in this, I see a lot of people writing and blogging about this, is that the next normal, so before COVID, when someone was working from home, often it was like, that was up to them to make it work. If most people were face-to-face, then they kind of ran it like everyone was face-to-face. You're kind of an afterthought. I think there'll be more of a mix going forward of, some people will be remote and some will be face-to-face. And so the way that we collaborate will be more like when we're all remote, because in my opinion, once one person's remote, you should assume everyone operates that way. Like, I like the saying, one voice, one face. So if if you have 3 people in a room and then 2 people remote, everybody should be on their laptops so that everyone has the face on Zoom, and then it levels the playing field and creates an equal presence, and I think just helps you collaborate better. So I think going forward, and there's a lot that organizations will have to think about as far as what their new normal is going to be. And what they're comfortable with, what their people are comfortable with, but then also, how do you help people adjust to that? So how do we remote team? How do we do remote leadership? Because all of that is different. It's not to say that the skills we had before don't apply, but we have to adjust things. There's definitely nuances and things that will change.
Yeah, and someone actually did ask a question earlier on. I'll get to that later, but it does relate to that one. So let's hold on to that one for a moment. The second hard question: what will be carried forward from working at home during the pandemic? What would you keep and what would you throw away from the past?
What will I keep and what will I throw away?
What will you keep from the new world, and what would you throw away from the old world?
Okay, so I would throw away I think this experiment has taught us that we can all, well, not all, but if you were a knowledge worker, an office worker, because like at the Iconic, we have a fulfillment center. Half of our team is in a fulfillment center. They can't work from home. So some people just can't, because they need to be in a physical location to do their work. But I think we've proven that if it's possible for you to work from home, we can actually collaborate remotely very well. And it's not to say that everything is better when everyone's remote, but I think the pros definitely outweigh the cons. Yeah. And that's what I'm hearing from a lot of people as well. I still hear some people prefer to be in the office for various reasons. Like, it might be that they just don't have a good work from home environment, or they just miss that people interaction. And when that's fair enough too. But I think that going forward, there'll be more choice and people will just make it work for them.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. We quite a lot of our clients, early days, I think we talked about it actually in our Survival Guide, but early days we had quite a lot of our clients really nervous about whether their teams were going to be effective and efficient working from home and whether they could make this work. And their first challenges were technology challenges. But actually, since then, the data, and we've been capturing one of the things we challenged our coaches to do is to capture data to prove one way or the other, to understand where the challenges were.
Yeah.
And what we're finding is the data actually showed that if anything, they're probably even more effective than they were in the past. Do you guys get the same sense of that, or is that not the case for you?
We definitely feel like at the Iconic, and we hear from our people that they feel that they're as effective, if not more effective. And I think, like, from a business perspective, we would agree. I think the question is, though, too, I get the feeling that people have been working longer hours in a lot of situations in COVID. So you want to be able to take that out of the equation eventually. So, if we're working the same amount of hours that we used to in the office, is it still more productive, or is it maybe equal? But one of the biggest that I've personally felt, and I've spoken to other people about this, and we talk about this in agility a lot, is, limiting your work in progress, limiting distractions. And, one of the, was it Agile Australia? It might have been the last conference. Suzanne Nottage gave a great talk she did a whole paper on distractions. And one of the things she said, which I thought was interesting, is she said, what do you think is the number one source of distractions for people working in an office? And everyone got to guess. So everyone here will think about what they think that is. And the answer was yourself. So it's you going, I think I'm going to get up and make a cup of tea. Or I think, what's the weather going to be like this weekend? Because I did want to go to the beach. And, or here comes the Slack message because I have my Slack notifications on and I'm going to get distracted by that. All things that we can control. Yeah. And so with COVID, what I've noticed is so much more is in our control as far as when we get distracted, if we want it to be, because I don't have any notifications from email or anything like that. So when I want to check my Slack, I go and check my Slack. So I make that decision. And so I found it very fulfilling, and you just feel a sense of accomplishment because you can just get through things really quickly without stopping and starting. And we all know that when we stop and start and multitask, it creates inefficiencies. So I think that I know my personal experiment, I felt that way, and I've heard other people say that as well.
Yeah, no, it's a really good point. I am my worst enemy when it comes to distractions. A lot of the time, I feel that in my head, I'm up in the clouds, and I don't know, just thinking big picture stuff, and it's very hard to translate that into real action when you're constantly thinking about the next thing, and instead of focusing on the current thing. In fact, I'm pretty sure that my clients and my team have often said to me that I have an offsider that kind of helps me quite a lot in transformational space, because I can have big conversations with big personalities and with executive and things like that, but when it comes to translating those conversations into reality on the ground, I often need someone at the side of me to make that happen, the real doers, because I'm too busy talking about it to get it done. And it's the same with anything, all of my task lists, everything in my Kanban board. I've got a personal Kanban board as well. So yeah, without that, I think I'd be 50% less efficient than I otherwise would be. Yeah, it's good. Quick question that someone's asked. I think Michelle Prosser Roberts has asked, how agile is the Iconic, and what are you most proud of as the head of agility there?
Okay, so I've worked in the Silicon Valley and in a couple startups, as I mentioned before. I've experienced, how would I describe it? Like great agility And some of that wasn't just in the Silicon Valley. Like the first project I worked on, and Kathleen Corona, who I think here was with me at My Wealth, at CA, very agile environment. And the Iconic is, so as an org goes, it's one of the most agile organizations I've ever been a part of. And I actually chose it because of that. So I had decided when I was looking for my next role after AMP that I was interested in not necessarily helping an organization go from traditional to agile, but helping an organization that was already agile, like say an agile tween, like not a teenager, not like, I got this, I don't need your help, but more like help us get to the next level. And so that's what I was looking for. And I had a few companies that I was targeting, and the Iconic was one of them because of that. And so sometimes when I would tell people what was happening at the Iconic, they'd go, wow, you've done amazing work. And I'm like, oh no, all that was there before I got there. And so, but that's not to say that we're done or we're, perfect at all. In fact, I find it's a constant journey. And definitely we, across the organization, I would say everybody has a very agile mindset, which is key to having business agility. As far as agile practices, the tech and product team for sure are, those are much more embedded in that area of the business than others. But people are really open to learning and working in new ways. The Iconic is only 8 years old, and it's the largest online fashion retailer in Australia and New Zealand. And because we grew so fast, there's so much. Well, we never do things the same way for very long because we outgrow them. And so the problems that we're trying to solve are really exciting because they usually deal with growth. And why was I mentioning that? So people are used to this continuous improvement mindset, or almost like people aren't really attached to how things operate because they're kind of used to we're always doing things differently. So that was the environment that I, came into, and I really have been enjoying working in that environment.
Yeah, nice. And another question that Pete Woolley has asked is, how are you handling new employee onboarding into agile teams during the lockdown? So given that the Iconic was relatively agile when you came on board, I've been in there and I noticed the way that the team, like, because you showed me around the Iconic once, and I've noticed that the teams are really self-sufficient. They really take care of most things themselves. Is that right? Is that how are the teams just taking care of onboarding, or is there a special way that you have to do it? Has it changed?
Well, one of the things, so we're very fortunate at the Iconic that when COVID hit, I know a lot of companies, because they needed to, like, stood down some employees, or people went from 5 days to 4 days and things like that. We had some flexible staff that we didn't need them right away, but I think we've hired a lot of them back. But the way that we handled, financially, is that not that many. Well, as people left, we weren't necessarily replacing them. So we didn't have too many people start new, but we did have a new CTO start in COVID. And so, what does that look like? I think it's really hard for people, even with the, even when you give it the best effort, because I think it's a lot easier for us. Like, I know you in person, so it's easier for me to communicate with you on video. But if you've never met people in person, it's a lot harder to feel that connection on video. Once you've met in person, I feel like then you can keep going on video much easier. And so, we do a lot of meet and greets. It's probably the stuff that everyone else does too, but it's much harder. And he has started to meet people because now that you can, for like an outside walk or coffees and things like that. Yeah, I think I think it's I don't think we're doing it as well as we probably could because it's a new area to learn from. I actually heard somebody I know that started at Canva recently was raving about their onboarding with remote people, because she said, which I thought sounded really good, is people were reaching out to her from everywhere, which is what you want, because if you're new, like just reaching out to people on your own is a lot harder than if you've been there and reaching out to someone that's new.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're going to go to a new segment of At Home with Interesting People called Truth or Dare. See how this works. Now, if you answer the question, no problems at all. If you don't answer the question, though, the problem is you're going to need to do the floss while singing the song from Copacabana.
The song.
So what do you want?
Wait, first of all, my kids wanted a shout out. So Riley and Talia and Milo would love to see me do the floss because they're always correcting my floss.
You can do both. There's no reason why you can't do both.
Song from Copacabana.
Well, I've got the playlist here if you want to listen to it. Or
actually, you're gonna play the song and I'm gonna floss.
Yeah, but before we do that, actually, I'm going to give you another option, because when I caught up with you the other day, you were playing a ukulele. So feel free to do that for us as well if you like, because that was pretty amazing. I can't wait to hear it.
Well, I just started to learn, so I think you're pumping me up a little bit more than I need. Is that the dare?
So that's the dare. If you choose the dare, then you got to play the guitar and play the ukulele and floss at the same time. Good luck. Or you can answer the question. Which one is it?
Or answer the question. Okay. Do I get to hear the question first? How does that work?
All right, I'll give you the question first, right?
All right.
Have you ever behaved in your real head of agile role, wherever it might be? Have you ever found yourself behaving in a way that is contrary to the values and the principles that we're supposed to mirror every day and behavior? Have you ever seen that and from yourself? And where that was the case, can you share that with us? What happened and how did you get in that situation and how did you recover from that situation?
Okay, so I'll answer the question.
Okay.
100% yes. It happens to me all the time. And part of it, I think, is because as humans, our tendencies aren't always aligned to what we might do from an agility perspective. So, for example, if we're brainstorming on, a problem and we want to fall in love with the problem, understand the problem before we jump to solutions. My mind is jumping to solutions just like everyone else. And, I've been known to throw out a solution and then say, oh, hang on, we're not on solutions, but we'll capture that and get back to it kind of thing. I catch myself all the time doing things like that. I mean, I usually do catch myself because I obviously know what the agile approach would be to things. But I think that's just, that's okay. Everyone's human. And yeah, I usually just call it out. And I usually call it out as, what's the word I'm looking for? Openly as I can, because I want people to realize that, agility isn't something that's perfect and nobody's perfect at it. It's a practice. It's we're always practicing agility, and it's trial and error, it's experiments, so if and there's no real right or wrong either. So yeah, I definitely catch myself doing it.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like there's a saying in many industries, I'm sure, but I'm sure you've heard this one before as well, Jody, that we're often agile coaches, agile transformationalists, agilists, evangelists, whatever you want to call it. are also the plumbers with the leakiest taps. So that's
Oh, like the shoemaker shoes. Oh, I wouldn't go that far because I do I do practice what I preach, no doubt.
we do. Yeah, I do feel like you're right. We do catch ourselves very often recognizing that we're not behaving or living the exemplar of what we should be on a very regular basis. But I think, as you say, it's the expertise is in recognition of it, and then going, oh, okay, hang on a minute. How about we try something else, or actually just recognizing after the fact that maybe there's a better way we could have done it, but not necessarily about getting it right 100% of the time, right?
Absolutely. It's impossible to get it right 100% of the time. And I think like the strongest teams are good at recognizing, they're good at retrospecting, recognizing when something's not going well and then how are we going to fix this. They're good at problem solving together. And they're not and if you're good at that, then you're going to be high performing.
I love that. So the strongest teams are good at retrospectively looking at, just good at retrospectives. I really love that because oftentimes I'll be asked, what is the one practice that if you could only have enough time to do one thing, what would that be? And I always say retrospective, because there's other practices that other people would recommend as well. Even this itself is not perfect, but the retrospective enables you to just firstly get things wrong, because we all do, and then just learn from that, because it's a continuous improvement practice. That's actually it's open mindset, learning mindset, continuous improvement, and a retrospective is the one ceremony that I would do to constantly be challenging myself about how to get better and challenging the teams we work with, right?
I completely agree. That's if I have to take one practice with me, that's the one I'll take, and that's the one I would start people with as well. If you want to start experimenting with agile ways of working, start with retrospectives, and you can do it no matter what kind of working you're doing.
Yeah, totally agree. Got a question from another gentleman that we know, George White. Any thoughts on how to encourage incidents or social contact, in a large remote team? We are missing random interactions now. Everyone is Zoom all day. So any way you can encourage that sort of behavior?
Well, I think Slack
or social contact.
Yeah, I think Slack is great. We have like a random channel on Slack and people post funny memes and get some banter going. I think just I believe in facilitating ways for people to collaborate. So if you let it happen organically, it will happen, but it will be much slower. So for example, today I got a call out of the blue from one of my teammates, Beck, and she said, "Hey, I'm just calling to say hi. No reason in particular." And I was like, I love that. Yeah. And, phone is really good too, because I think if we have to be on Zoom, you get the Zoom fatigue, right? And so you can get, I heard the CEO of Automatic, he was speaking because they've been fully distributed, as they call it, or remote for some time. And he was saying that phone is almost as good as video, whereas chat is way worse because you can't interpret a font, but like you can interpret the tone of someone's voice, and you can even tell when you're on the phone if someone's smiling, right? Like you can tell by their voice. And so even though you can't see them, you can sense a lot on the phone, and it's more relaxing because you get a break from Zoom. So I think creating things like that, fun things like share, what you cook for dinner, or we have one that's like pictures of your pet on Slack. And so people just post fun pictures of their pets. I think anything to create some random interactions with people that you don't normally work with, because that's what I'm missing the most, and I hear from other people. We used to see each other in the hallways, in the kitchen and stuff, and you don't get that. So yes, I collaborate with the people that I'm directly working with, but I miss all those people that you just used to see. And so having some interaction with them while being remote is important to facilitate.
Yeah, we do at Epic. We do we haven't done it every Friday, but we do Friday drinks, virtual drinks. So we still do that. Because we used to have Friday breakfast every week and then drinks every once a month or something like that. So we're trying to do Friday drinks just to wind down. We try not to talk about, and we use breakout rooms actually to have different types of conversations like you would in a party. So,
I love that.
when people come in and then they want to ask a work question, we're like, get out of the room, get out. so yeah, little things like that can make a big difference.
Yeah, and the breakout groups are great too because creating those smaller interactions because people will speak more. And the other thing I've noticed too with working remotely is we move so much less. So sometimes when I first started, I'm like, it feels like every day I'm sitting in a plane seat flying from Sydney to Perth, and that's my work. Because like I'll get up, go down the hallway to use the bathroom, and then come back, just like it's like an airline, situation. And when we would facilitate sessions in person, a big part of that is how do you keep people moving? Because then they're engaged, sitting, standing, small groups, big groups. And then you facilitate online, and we sometimes don't think about that as much. And people are just sitting in front of their computers. So, I've started to do silly things like, all right, in between the session, everyone walk around your chair twice and then the other way and then sit back down. And, just to get the blood circulating a bit, because I think we can get really stagnant physically and that affects us mentally.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, and talking about getting up and moving around, I'd love it if you could do the floss for us so we can record that, send it to your daughter afterwards. So you're willing to do it? You want to give it a go?
All right, yeah, but you're going to play the music? So I don't think I could do it while I play the ukulele. I'm just a beginner at that.
All right. Just hang on a minute. Hang on. I got to get the music going. I can't even, let's see if we can get it going.
My camera angle. The floss is like a waist thing.
All right.
You ready? Oh, it's Barry Manilow. Wait.
That's really good.
You like it? I'm pretty sure it's not good, but thanks for the encouragement. I like that as a way to get people moving. Let's just show us your floss,
That was really good. Really good. And what about your ukulele? Are you going to show us some of that? Are you going to be able to play some of that for us?
Well, you know how the thrift stores were closed for a while? I missed them so much. And then I went in once they opened and saw this beauty. So I felt like it was a sign from the universe that I needed a ukulele. And because, we're often helping people work in new ways, try new things. I'm a big believer of the more we personally can be trying something new, then you kind of have that you get the empathy with beginners. And so anyway, my son plays ukulele, so he taught me, let's see, maybe I won't tell you the song. See if you can guess it. See if you can guess. Yeah, someone said I was rocking the floss. Thank you. Mwah. Love you. All right, see if you can tell what song this is. I don't know the whole song, but I'm going to play the bit that I know. But the bit I know is like the chorusy part. Okay, you ready? Yeah. Okay, has anyone got a guess on the chat? I'm looking at the chat. Whoa, Michelle, Riptide, nailed it.
Nice. Nailed it, Michelle. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah,
Thanks
three chords. And I play it. My son says I still play it too slow, so I'm working on
that. Good job. Oh man, you're absolutely right. I love learning new things. I'm constantly trying to play with something new all the time, and it's actually worse for me during lockdown. I don't know if this is learning something new per se, not quite as creative as you, but I didn't know what to do during lockdown in the afternoon when I finished work because, I was still at home and I needed to do something different. So I just went to the local, I don't know if I should be even saying this, but I went to the local bottle-o and picked up 21 different craft beers that I've never tried. And just over the course of the next 7 days, I tried 3 different beers every other day just to try something new, because I didn't know, I had to open my mind to a different horizon of beer. It doesn't really matter. I like to brew my own beer, so it was a thing to do. So I think
I
taking
like
the
that.
opportunity to learn something new.
New experience.
Yes, take the opportunity. You got all this extra time where you're not traveling and doing things. So yeah, teach yourself something new. The other thing I did was I downloaded a lot of audiobooks and played them at 2 times the speed at lunchtime or in the morning just before work.
2 times is
Yeah.
fast. Like 1.5 is pretty fast, but 2 times.
Yeah, it actually adds a bit of humor to the day when you hear the author or the person that's proxying the author just speaking like a chipmunk. But otherwise, it's been a lot of fun. And I think another thing that I think my business partner Brad did, he's on here somewhere, I'm pretty sure. Hi, Brad. He did I think it was a 21-day yoga sort of or learning, I don't know, appreciation for the universe basically thing. He shared that with the Epic crew. So abundance, there you go, 21-day abundance. Thanks, Brad. And so everyone got to learn a little bit about what we're really grateful for as well. So it doesn't have to be work related, right? Sometimes it can be about, just looking around you and things like that.
I've heard that from a lot of people about creating that boundary between when you're going to stop work and start life after work during the day, because there's not that obvious like commute time kind of thing. I have a candle in my office, so I'll blow out the candle at the end of the day. But I've heard some people just like go for a walk. One of the people I work with, she always goes for a walk to see the sunset. And sometimes she says she works more after that, but like she always has that time because it's such a beautiful time of day. And I love that idea of taking advantage of this situation to create these new rituals in our lives.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Jody, the time is almost up, and before we let you go, I've got a couple of more questions from the audience I think we should ask. So very quickly, how has your leadership style changed during COVID?
How has my leadership style changed? I became much more observant during COVID. So when COVID first started, and I think this is true with a lot of organizations from what I hear, but the Iconic executives, I think, handled it brilliantly. But in order to do that, they actually went into quite a command and control way of working, because if you can take us back, it was like there was a really tight time frame where people were like, we wanted to keep people safe, we wanted to keep business moving or running, and so that meant getting people home, working from home. But for us, it also meant keeping people safe in our fulfillment center. And so it was a very unique situation. And what I found myself doing is a lot of observing and loitering. Like I was just, and also like, how can I help? Just tell me what you want me to do. I'm happy to do anything as that, whatever you think is most important for the business. It wasn't a time for like sort of promoting your normal agenda or the normal things that you would promote at work. And I thought that was really good for me, because I think a lot of times, we're teaching and we're helping people move to sort of a direction that we envision, but it was more me just observing and trying to react to in the moment what's happening and how can I help.
Yeah, no, that's really good. What about I've got another question here from Hermione. So any advice on how to manage too many meetings, cultural, for certain roles, e.g. product managers? It's inevitable to attend many meetings. Any advice on how you can get these done differently to how we used to do it?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a great article, and I'll share it with you to share.
We can send it out.
Yeah, that somebody wrote on the different levels of remote working, and it went from level 2 to level 5. And from recollection, level 2 was like, you take everything that you used to do in the office and you basically move it to Zoom. And level 5 is about asynchronous working. It's about breaking down the work so you can do a lot of it as pre-work or prep. And then when you get together, it's just the bits that you need to collaborate on. And I think a lot of, well, I see it at the Iconic, and I hear it's true in other orgs too. A lot of people are at different levels of remote working, and a lot of teams are at level 2 or maybe a little bit above. But level 2 is, I believe it's a natural progression to kind of go there, but then you don't want to stay there too long. You want to work your way up, because what happens in level 2, if you just move everything you did in the office to Zoom, you get burnt out. And part of that is the meetings. And because it takes, I think I learned this actually in Epic course, where you guys were moving a lot of your training to online, and you found that it takes 1.5 to 2 times as long to do what you would do in person online. So if you think of that from a getting work done perspective, if we just move our work that we did in the office to Zoom, we don't have enough time to do it that way.
Right.
And so you do have to work differently, and there's lots of techniques to do that. And one of them, the best one to start with, I think, is social contracts.
Yep.
So having everyone talk about how we're going to communicate, what do we expect of each other. What I was finding when I did this with several teams at the Iconic is that people were feeling like, well, I'm home, so I need to be responsive if you contact me, and I need to be across all the channels, email and Slack and text. But through the social contract, what they came to agree on is, no, that's not true. If I need to reach you urgently, I will call you.
Just call.
And and that's how I've been operating with the people I work with. And I think I could count on my hands how many times someone's called me with an urgent request. And so it's really important to think about how you're working and making that work for everyone in the team.
Yeah, it's good. It's good sharing. Jody, time is up, and I just really wanted to say thank you so much for sharing a little bit more about you and your home with us, and doing the floss for us, and listening to your music, and then obviously sharing your thoughts. It's been terrific to spend time with you again. Any last words you want to give to the audience or anybody else before we go?
I guess I would just say, don't be too hard on ourselves. I think that COVID there's a lot that came with COVID. And in Australia, we're really lucky. I have family in the US and hear what's happening there, and other parts of the world as well. And I think a lot of people in Australia have friends and family all around the world. So even if we're not feeling it as much here, we have loved ones who are. And so just be gentle with ourselves and look out for each other. And I feel like this is a great opportunity to reimagine and to create a better world for the world itself holistically, but then also for us individually. So, yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. Second that as well. Jody, thanks again for joining us for the very first episode of At Home with Interesting People. You certainly are that. I really, really appreciate your time, and I'm looking forward to catching up with you in person, maybe to have a tea in the future. But thanks again, and thank you for everybody who's joined us today and asked lots of questions. And we'll send through the questions later on for anybody who has, and the links that Jody was mentioning, I'll send those through as well. But otherwise, have a great day, Jody. Thanks again.
Thanks for having me. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.